We're out onto the front porch, and I have to say, this is my happy place. The one thing I do like about these stairs is, look, I've used it for storage. Every spot has to function in a tiny house, and this does. I picked this house, believe it or not, and bought it over the phone. So that's kind of like probably bizarre, but it's absolutely true. And I've never looked back or regretted it. My name is Colleen, and I'd love to give you a tour of my tiny house. Come on in. We've just entered the front of my tiny house, and we are in the living room. I moved from Connecticut about 3 years ago into a tiny house, and I've never been one that's into big things, but this house is a little less than half the size of my house that I moved from in West Hartford, Connecticut. It's a really comfy, cozy feel in here, but it doesn't feel tight or claustrophobic or anything like that because it's an open area that kind of combines with the kitchen as well as the high ceilings and the loft being up in the background. So it has an open feel. The only thing I had to do in the living room as far as buying things was really nothing. All this came with me. I decided I would buy this electric fireplace just because I like the ambiance that it adds to this whole area. This space here, my living room area, I am in here all the time because I love that feeling of being like cozy. And whether it be sitting on the couch and watching TV or sitting every morning, I sit in one of the stools over here and do like my paperwork, my morning review. I'm in here a lot. In West Hartford, the place wasn't big, but it was more, it was bigger. And I think that in the evening, I would tend to gravitate more toward a smaller spot, which was the bedroom. So this place really gets a lot of use. Now I am at the stairs. They call it statter. That's what it is, cross between a ladder and stairs. The one thing I do like about these stairs is, look, I've used it for storage. And yet I have made it so that it doesn't obstruct people going up and down. Every spot has to function in a tiny house, and this does. Aesthetically, I love having the loft. It adds some kind of a really neat look when you come in. When my kids come to visit, that's their spot. There's not much up there. There's a mattress that's on the floor because it's not an area you can stand up in. Now we have moved into the kitchen, which, as I said before, is basically almost part of the living area. It's small, very small, but it works for me. I personally don't do much cooking other than the microwave or the toaster oven, but you still need a kitchen. So as you can see, I have a lot of cabinets here. There's a lot of cabinet space. It's deceptively large. And you can use it for, your dishes and your pots and pans. But in addition, I have like a heating pad and like a little iron up there and extra paper goods, things like that. I do not have a dishwasher. I do not have a garbage disposal. I don't need those. I like not having them. I have a small sized refrigerator and a small washer dryer. And I purposely picked small size to allow me some extra storage space. So although it's a small spot, it's really good for being able to store pretty much everything you would want to. I bought this tiny home almost 3.5 years ago now. I selected this particular house. It was the smallest one they offered, which is 394 square feet. And it was $131,000, which was a very big factor for me because I'm retired now. And people who are retired are very cognizant of, watching their spending. But beside that, there's a couple things to mention. Thing number one is that I have to pay lot rent. I bought the tiny home outright, but in that lot rent, I get a lot of bang for the buck. It's not only all my yard care, my lawn care, because I hate doing that. It also covers everything except your electricity. It covers your Wi-Fi, your cable TV, water. Every other bill is paid for. So that I find very convenient. It's simplified and cheap. The last part of that is that the amenities here are all included as well. And there's all kinds of things. There's a gym up there, which I like to use when it gets too hot. But there's a pool, there's yoga classes. There's like these creative classes, like painting and trivia and just parties with different themes. So, all that is included. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Although this is a tiny house and we're in the bathroom, it's actually not much smaller than when I was in my regular house in West Hartford. I have a full-size shower with 2 little seat areas, plenty of storage space again, and on top of everything else, I have room for a little cat litter box between the toilet and the sink. So this, to me, functions pretty well. So I call this area the Alcove. And interestingly, there are 4 different homes in this community that have this area, and everybody has chosen to use it differently. For me, it gave me a place to put my baker's rack, and everything on here has a story behind it. And that is important to me. And it also gives my cats, there's their cat food, which I don't have to put out in the middle of the kitchen, and a little hamper for dirty clothes. And once again, you'll see all the things around me on the walls. They also all have a story, but it makes me happy every time I walk by them.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris. I am the owner and founder of Tiny Home Tours. I wanted to very quickly talk to you about my experience with BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video, and also how you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. A few years ago, I decided to stop drinking altogether. Throughout my 20s, I drank fairly heavily, and overall, I really wanted to take my health a lot more seriously, and that's where not drinking came in. Throughout the process, I learned that I was using alcohol as a coping mechanism for different experiences I had from childhood. So when it became apparent that I really needed to deal with these new emotions, I tried to find healthy ways to get this done, and I turned to BetterHelp for a few reasons. The first reason is I live full-time in my off-grid school bus. I'm usually out in nature, far away from cities, so having a service to where I could do telehealth was very important to me. I also appreciated that with BetterHelp, I was able to switch therapists to find a therapist that had methods that resonated with me. BetterHelp has a network of over 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. So if you're dealing with childhood issues like I was, depression, anxiety, or life changes that you need to talk through, BetterHelp has a therapist that can help you. Get started with BetterHelp today. Click the link down in the description or go to betterhelp.com/tinyhometours to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Now, let's get back to the tour.
So now we're all the way at the back of the tiny house. We came in through the porch, we went through the living room and kitchen area, down the little hall where there's the alcove and the bathroom, and we're all the way in the back. This is a small space, but it totally works for me. The only thing you have to bring is a bed, which I brought a double bed, just a plain mattress and box spring, and I have a little table which I use for putting on makeup and like charging stuff. In West Hartford, I had to have like a big bureau with the drawers, and I had a big closet with these floor-length mirrors on them. But here, all that is kind of built in. There's 2 barn doors here that have closets behind them and a built-in dresser, which I use for a few things on top. But I like this place. I come here at the end of the day, turn my TV on. It's this little, once again, I hate to repeat, but it's this little comfy, cozy area. Much smaller than West Hartford, but much better. We are now have come all the way through the house. We're out onto the front porch, and I have to say, this is my happy place. I spend a lot of time out here reading, just drinking my coffee. My cats love this area. Right now, Florida's in a cold spell, but usually my doors are always open from the first thing in the morning until just before I go to bed at night. I just love the feeling of the fresh air and just the whole openness of this. And I look out across, I see my little lake over there across the street behind the other houses. Neighbors come by, walking their dogs, you greet them. It's just a really cool spot. My whole life, or at least my adult part of my life, I've been interested in just minimalism. I'm not one that wants to have a mansion or a lot of rooms or a fancy car. So when I got toward retirement, I was on this website, or it's kind of like an email mailing list called Florida for Boomers. And one day, out of the blue, comes up Simple Life. And I started looking into it, and there were a lot of options at that point. What size of your house you wanted, what style. I picked this house, believe it or not, and bought it over the phone. So that's kind of probably bizarre, but it's absolutely true. And I've never looked back or regretted it.